you guys can't hear me now. Can you hear me? Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Everybody's on, right? Okay, deep breath. I'm talking to you today about Assembly Bill 2179. No, I don't like it, but there's something I do like. Okay, so I'm still letting people in. Assembly Bill 2179 extends the statewide bill that's currently governing us, that's Assembly Bill 832. That expires today, okay? So today, the tenant protections expire and AB 2179 would kick in tomorrow. No joke. Side note, okay? Today is a very important day. Today is the very last day that landlords can apply for rental assistance. If you are owed any rents between March 1st of 2020 through today, I strongly suggest and recommend that you apply for the government funds today. Still on a side note here, if Senate Bill 847 passes, and you guys, it is this close to passing, I'm like, it's right there, okay? It would pay landlords loss of rents for tenants that didn't apply or were denied based on income. That describes half of us, okay? That's Senate Bill 847, and I'm watching it like a hawk. It's this close to passing, folks. End of side note. The approval of this bill that we're talking about, 2179, extends the protections for tenants for an additional 3 months, as the state claims they need 3 more months to pay out the landlords the tenants' past due rents. With that being said, here's the part I love about it. Everybody pay attention. This bill that will affect us tomorrow, trust me, it's there. It does allow for no protection for tenants that held rent and either refused to apply or were denied based on income. What did Patty just say? Patty just said we should be able to start evictions on the people that didn't apply and refused to apply, or that were denied based on their income. We can start evictions on them now. They have no protections, none, 0. Okay, I like that about this new bill. That actually made me happy. I was a little frustrated when they said, and I quote, "We won't be doing any more extensions." Hang on, I'm still letting people in, guys. So when they said they wouldn't be doing any more extensions, I thought, okay, great, this is it, we're there. But apparently the state of California needs more time to process these eviction or the rent relief applications and get these landlords paid or deny the tenants. So our April Fools is now actually really an April Fool, but hopefully we'll get our teeth back on Independence Day, right? Well, that's when we should celebrate July, right? If you haven't applied for the money and you're owed money, apply today. I'm serious. If Senate Bill 847 passes, we as landlords may just get paid regardless of what our tenants did. And some of us really, really need that in order to survive. I'm most excited that it doesn't offer any protections for tenants that are manipulating the system and trying to take advantage of us, let's face it, because it's at our expense, right? So with that being said, go, 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 you guys, go apply if you haven't already applied. Because if 847 passes, you may get paid the past due back owed rent then. And I'm excited about that. That actually makes sense to me, because why are we as landlords being penalized, punished, and basically held our foot to the fire for tenants that are manipulating the system? It's not fair to us. We have enough trials and tribulations in our everyday lives. We don't need to add to it, right? Just saying. we want to keep things pretty simple. So I did glance through Assembly Bill. Oh, since I have the background, it won't show you. That sucks. I did glance through Assembly Bill 2179. It's about 10 pages or so. I'll look more in depth at it. This most likely is going to pass, hands down. It'll be signed and implemented tomorrow if need be. But this is what they're gonna do. I have no doubt they're gonna make an additional extension based on the state not being able to pay out landlords fast enough. And we'll see if 90 days is enough for them. I mean, what can I say? I don't like it. I don't like it one bit, but not a whole lot I can do about it. Just saying. Does anybody have questions? I know they're going to bombard me with them and I'll do my best to answer them. Please remember, this is a new bill that just came out. I spent several hours last night after a long day trying to go through the trials and tribulations of it, if you will, and had a long conversation with some of our senior paralegals here at Fast Evict and also one of our attorneys this morning in regards to this and what's going on. And all I keep going back to is it does allow no protections for the tenants that have held rent and either refused to apply or were denied assistance based on income. That is like golden, because there's a lot of us where our tenants have been holding our residential properties hostage, is the best way I could describe it. And for what? We didn't do anything to them, but try to give them a place to live, you know, don't blame us. So I find that extremely frustrating as well. We're not alone. Remember, I own investment property. I have skin in this game. It sucks. I get it. So remember, today is the very last day you can apply. I got you. I'll say it again, Jay, and I'm going to keep repeating it so everybody understands. Please pay attention. I may ask you questions later. The statewide bill 832 that expires today will be extended by Assembly Bill 2179. Assembly Bill 2179 is a 3-month extension on current tenant protections. Okay. There's a couple of changes and I'll tell you what they are. Just follow me. So we don't get our teeth back on April Fool's Day. We got fooled. We have to wait till July 1st and celebrate our independence, right? This is Assembly Bill 2179. It extends, hold on, I'm gonna let somebody else in and then I'll wait just a couple of seconds so they can get logged on and I'll repeat it. And then I'll answer questions for anybody that has questions, okay? And we will see a new 3-day notice come out with new verbiage on it, okay? So hang on. Assembly Bill 2179 extends the statewide bill, which is Assembly Bill 832 that currently governs us because of COVID, and it expires today. On a side note, today is a very important day. It is the very last day that a landlord can apply for rental assistance. If you are owed any rents from March 1st of 2020 through today, I strongly suggest that you apply. Still on a side note here, if Senate Bill 847 passes, and I'm watching it like a hawk, just so you guys know, if it passes, it would pay landlords loss of rents for tenants that didn't apply or were denied based on income. Got it? It is this close to passing, folks. Okay, back to AB 2179 that starts governing us as soon as tomorrow. The approval of this bill extends protections for tenants for an additional 3 months as the state of California claims they need more times to pay out landlords tenants past due rents. So that's the big push on this one, is the state says they need more time. I get it, it's okay. But the big thing that this adds that we didn't have before, and we're getting it tomorrow, and I'm excited about it, it does allow absolutely no protection, none, no protections for a tenant that has either held rent and refused to apply or were denied based on income. So we can start those evictions tomorrow. Everybody paying attention? Okay, just want to make sure. So this will extend the tenant protections for COVID for 3 months while the state pays everybody out. If you haven't applied, please apply today. If you're owed rent monies and Senate Bill 847 passes, then we may get paid as landlords without the participation of the tenants. So we may get our money back. It's worth a shot, you guys. I mean, it's not gonna hurt to spend 10 minutes applying if you haven't done so. So please consider that. Let's go. I know you guys have questions. I know we all got fooled. April Fool's Day, we all got fooled, but Independence Day, we're coming. It's time. I know people have questions. Do tenants need to do anything? Or can they just not pay rent for another 3 months in LA County if they have applied but have not been approved? Tenants, if they've applied, they don't need to do anything. And they're still responsible to pay the rent. It may be a little different. We're gonna have a new 3-day notice with new verbiage on it for the next 3 months, so watch out for that. Get with your apartment association. There will be a new 3-day notice, no doubt, with verbiage on it regarding this. Yeah, don't use the old 3-day. There'll be a new 3-day. Remember, legally and technically, we can't serve a 3-day notice until April 2nd. Rent's due on the 1st and not delinquent until the 2nd. So don't be surprised if we see everybody piling in with those notices at the last minute. They're still trying to put them together, I'm sure. I know we are, so I'm trying. Yeah, all we need is the governor to sign off on this, and I anticipate that he will. It's passed everywhere else. We just need the governor to sign off of it because it is giving the state more time to pay landlords. I have a feeling that he's going to sign off on that on no problem. And for the most part, the thing that excites me the most is for those tenants that were withholding rents, we can actually start eviction on those tenants that were manipulating the system or using the system to the advantage. So that does help tremendously for those of us that are having our investment properties held hostage against us. It's ludicrous. And I know I have quite a few clients that are in that, or quite a few of our members are in that position, and it's not fun. It's not fun. I mean, I even considered moving to LA for a couple of weeks just to help them. If a resident has been paid through the end of March by the rental assistance, do they get another 3 months of assistance if they qualify? No, there's no more money. They're not covering any period past April 1st. Okay. Oh, somebody else asked a question when I was trying to answer that one and it moved. Do we serve a 3-day notice for April in the San Fernando Valley? Most likely we'll be able to answer that question better Friday, tomorrow. Do you know what a landlord needs to do if the tenant will not recertify for another month of rent past due? If the payment we were awarded did not cover March of 2022, my tenant will not follow up with me so I can ask them to contact Housing is Key to recertify. Then he's not participating in the program, and if he doesn't apply tonight by midnight, that program closes and you most likely will be able to do an eviction for them not complying with the program. See how that worked? Okay, more questions. Do you know what a landlord needs to do if the tenant will not recertify for another month of rent past due? The payment we were awarded did not cover March of 2022. My tenant will not follow up with me so I can ask him to contact Housing is Key to recertify. So at that particular point, I'd contact legal counsel and see if they're ready to start an eviction based on him failing to apply. And like I said, according to AB 2179, we should be able to start those as soon as tomorrow. This extension allows, and I'm going to try to say this as nicely as I can, okay? So work with me here. This extension allows tenants No. This extension allows the state more time to pay us landlords because they're so behind. I don't need to tell you guys, it takes them 6 to 8 months to pay. Well, now nobody else can apply, so they're not accepting any new applications after today, so they won't be bombarded with new stuff hitting them, and they can clear out what's sitting there. They need 3 months to clear out what's sitting there. Make sense? So this extension is for nothing more than the government to issue payments to landlords. If the application status is pending and it's been sitting as pending, you're most likely going to get paid. If it's approved and you haven't gotten the money yet, it's probably sitting there because they can't keep going forward because they keep taking on all these new applications. That closes today. So I think this forces our state to start dispersing funds in a more amicable manner so that we can get our feet back under us. Do you know what I want? Oh, I just answered that. I understand you're an LARSO. It's whatever covers, whatever restriction restricts you the most is what controls. But I would check with your legal counsel if you can do an eviction because they're failing to participate in the program in RSO. I'd ask because this has got to stop. We are bleeding money and it's no joke anymore. I mean, if the state of California doesn't turn around and do something very quickly to help us as landlords and get this rectified as landlords, we are going to lose our investment properties. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I'd really like to tell myself every day that this was not a social experiment by our government. That's what I want to tell myself every day. They wouldn't do that to us. But this is more time allowed for the tenant to pay the rent in LA. This is the state, not LA City. This covers the entire state of California. My tenant got the check for April through June of 2021 and didn't give me the money. Government paid me directly after that. How do I recover the 3 months? Contact your attorney. You should be able to file an eviction based on the fact that they committed fraud. Call your attorney. Our tenant has applied for housing is key and we are in a pending payment status. Yes. We received a verbal this week from Housing is Key and it states online. Still recommend that we apply. You should apply, yes. Because if you don't apply, they could send the money to your tenant directly. That's gonna sting. That's gonna hurt. So yes, if you apply as the landlord, then the money goes directly to you. What is the maximum amount? It's 18 months of assistance. She claims that in January of 2022, she requested assistance through June 1st of 2022. Assistance ends today, March 31st. They can ask all they want, whether or not they're going to get it. For clarification, we can evict on tenants that did not apply, did not answer, and were denied. Yes, that is correct from what I understand. You need to contact your legal counsel, but yes, that is how I understand it. Tenants that didn't participate in the program have no protections, period, end of report. They have no protections. They may argue, oh, but blah, 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 and oh, blah, blah, blah. No, you didn't participate. You have no protections. Bye-bye. Do you need to apply as the landlord to receive the funds directly? Oh, yes, April. Thank you. April's on here, you guys. Hello, April. We missed you. What April is saying, you guys, is that you need to apply as the landlord to receive the funds directly, or the tenant receives the funds with the instructions to give them to you within 15 days. I'll tell you right now, if a tenant gets a check for 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, and the most I've seen go to a tenant directly was $87,000 went to a tenant directly. They're given a thing signing saying that they have to send the money to the landlord within 15 days of receiving it. You're giving them start over in a new state kind of money here. I mean, for us, let's be honest, as landlords, $10,000 doesn't do a whole lot. But to a tenant, that's leave the state and start over somewhere new kind of money. So we want to make sure that money's coming directly to us and it's not going to the tenant. Also, if you have applied and the tenant is denied because they made too much money or whatever the issue is, and this other bill passes, Senate Bill 847, you could still get paid. In San Bernardino, are we allowed to increase rent tomorrow? Nope. Again, AB 2179 extends the statewide protections for tenants for 90 days. It covers the whole state of California, you guys, not a specific area. And I'm starting to do the happy dance for those people that are taken advantage of. I hope that this gives them the teeth they need to do an eviction based on the tenant holding their houses hostage. San Bernardino, could you do a rent increase if the tenant hasn't been affected by the pandemic? You may be able to do a rent increase. I'd have to look through this. I didn't see anything in regards to rent increases. It expires on July 1st, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot, you guys. This bill requires the modifications to a notice described above and maybe only for notices served before April 1st of 2022 and would specify the new modifications for notices served after April 1st, 2022 and before July 1st, 2022. So what that tells me is we're going to get a new 3-day notice with new verbiage on it this week. I know you already did it. Leave it sit there. If you've already done the increase, leave it sit there. And if it's a single family residence and they haven't been affected by COVID, you're probably going to be just fine. And yes, it is confusing, Val. I couldn't agree with you more. The reason that they did this too, just so you guys understand and hear me out, please. Do you remember that point in COVID? And I know April remembers, but we had a point in COVID where we weren't governed by an assembly bill, a Senate bill, or anything. So all the municipalities started making their own rules. This city had a rule, this city had a rule, that county had a rule. That's what the state of California is trying to stop from happening once they free us. Because once we're not governed by a state law, municipalities can all make their own laws, and we go back to figuring out what you can do in the city of San Bernardino, what you can do in the city of Yucca Valley, and what you can do in the city of, you get what I'm saying? So now, once this one expires come July, we have to deal with individual cities making all their own moratoriums again. Okay, that's a nightmare to navigate. So this stops that from happening. Thank you. 3-day notices for non-payment of rent should include what clause starting April 1st in San Bernardino? It should be everywhere, and it's in regards to the new extension of the Tenant Protection Act. And I can get into detail with you and read you what that has to say in certain text, but I'm going to have to read the rest of this Senate bill, and it's about 10 pages. I didn't look at that. This bill extending provisions would require the courts issuing a summons under these provisions, a plaintiff to file a statement under penalty of perjury that the determination is not pending on an application filed prior to April 1st for government rental assistance to cover any part of the rental debt deemed demanded from the defendants in the case. The bill would allow an action filed on or after April 1st and before July 1st, a judgment or default judgment to be issued in favor of the plaintiff if the court finds a determination is not pending on an application. So right now, what they're doing is they're not allowing the court clerks to enter a default judgment. They're requiring judges to do it. So they won't do it until your application status reads a certain thing. And what this is basically saying is if a judge determines that the application status reads denied, non-responsive, inactive, that they'll issue a judgment on their behalf. Once you have a judgment, then you can get the writ of possession, then you can get the sheriff lockout. So everything sits in court right now at the judgment. Until judgment's entered, a tenant can file an answer at any given time. Okay, so it leaves you wide open for exposure for litigation, the way the system's working right now. This would help close that off. If we already have a determination that says denied, non-responsive, inactive, whatever, that what they're saying is that would help this go a lot faster. This way they're actually letting them know in the courts that that is a way to handle that. Yeah, this is an urgent statute, or will declare it will take effect immediately. So that's, and without going into all the details, and this is pretty bad, or not pretty bad, it's pretty long. It's interesting. It's interesting. I will tell you that. What other questions do we have? Let me see. So they are extending the tenant, the COVID protections for our tenants for the next 90 days. July 1st is when we're going to get our teeth back, so to speak. Somebody else typed something. Let me see what that is. Nitpick question. Oh, Val. Come on, I'm blonde. We're not in the middle of the week. We're getting towards the end of the week. A tenant who is 3 months behind was just approved today for assistance. The check usually takes 2 weeks to arrive. Can I still charge an April late fee if the check is not received by April 5th? Yes. That was easy. You're not nitpicking. Folks, she's in Kern County. She can do that. Okay. And then if I could give you guys something to remember and just keep in mind, because I see this issue a lot. During the protected period of the COVID pandemic, we have to apply any incoming payments the date we receive them and going forward. We can't put them on any previous past due balance unless the tenant puts in writing for us to do that. With that being said, don't redo your whole accounting system. It's a nightmare. In the event you have to go to court, take a handwritten ledger. It'll only take you 10 minutes, I promise. Take a handwritten ledger. This is the date it was owed. This is what was owed. This is what was paid. This is what is still owed. Okay, keep it simple. But instead of revamping our entire accounting software systems, just do it by hand. We're right there, you guys. This bill would provide state dollars to rental owners that have gone without rent and whose tenants either won't cooperate in the rental assistance program application process or who don't qualify for the assistance. Why the bill would provide funding for all affected owners, it would prioritize small owners to receive those dollars first. Yes, that is true, April. Say that again about applying it back to back rents. All in during the COVID pandemic. Okay, hold on. For normal accounting purposes prior to COVID, so BC, before COVID, we got a payment for $1,000. We applied it to the most outstanding past due balance first. It's the way we do our accounting. And I'll give you an example, and I'm going to use January, February, and March because they're easy. Let's say I didn't get any money in January. I didn't get any money in February, but in March I got a payment. For those of us that do professional management, we would apply that to January's rent, not to March. Okay, you with me? There's a reason why, is because you can only go back 12 months on a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit. In an eviction case, you can only go back 12 months. Okay, pay attention. And I may ask questions later. Because of COVID, they rewrote in these laws that we have to do our accounting different during the COVID period. So from March 1st of 2020 to now June 30th of this year, we have to apply incoming payments in the month they were received and going forward to future months. They don't go to a past due balance. I know the why behind that, and I don't want to piss you guys off any more than we all are already pissed off. So we'll leave it at that, okay? I know the why. So they want you, when a tenant pays you $5,000 and their rent's $1,000 a month, then they would have $1,000 for this month rent, and the next 4 months rent would be paid in advance. That's how they want you to do your accounting during the COVID pandemic. Don't rewrite your software program. Let your software program do whatever it's going to do. If you have to upload a ledger for your application or you need to go to court, just handwrite the ledger. It's much easier than explaining to the judge why it's so convoluted and why this payment was applied there, because that's how your accounting system, stop, just handwrite a ledger, keep it simple. If you want to evict someone for non-payment of rent, don't go back through all those 15-day notices and all that garbage. Just do it real quick. Just go back just a couple of months. Just go back a shorter amount of time. Okay, Anna, what do you got? Oh, there's a couple things. What should we do when a tenant isn't behind, but they move out before the COVID money is applied? Do we refund the tenant or to the state? It depends. Was it a prepayment for future months or was it owed from past due rents? Because if it's past due rents, that's your money, whether the tenant left or not. If it's for future rents, then you need to make sure that you're deducting all your expenses before you refund any money to the state of California. Understood? Understood. I hope that's clicking with you, but yes, that would go back to the state, not the tenant. And you want to deduct for damages. If they didn't give you a 30-day notice, then you can charge the 30 days of rent. Are you following me yet? Okay. If I get the payment, how do we refund them? You're going to have to send the money back to the state of California, and your legal counsel should be able to help you do that. If you have trouble, you can always contact me. I will ask the attorneys here. If I get the payment from Housing is Key that says it is to cover the months the tenant is in the rears from January and February, and tenant did not pay, Housing is Key paid. So how do I record this? Housing is Key paid you for January and February, then they owe March's rent, and you implement it that way. It's for January and February and they still owe March. And tomorrow they're going to owe April. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Hey, Patty, I'm not sure about this. In a few days, when I need to do a 3-day notice for non-payment, should I still put in the clause apply for houseskey.com or just the old 3-day notice?
No, sir. Within the next couple of days, like by tomorrow, we should have new 3-day notices with new verbiage. Because they can't apply at Housing is Key anymore. They can't. It's gone. Today is the last day.
So I have to wait to see what the verbiage is, basically.
Yes, if I looked through this assembly bill, I could pull up the verbiage and tell you exactly what it says. It's not going to say about applying for housing. I already read that part. I can look at this and find out what the verbiage is. I just didn't pay attention to that part of it when I was reading it, to be honest with you, David, because I was looking for how does this hurt us as landlords? That was my mentality when I read through this the first time. The second, I went through this with the mentality of what benefits does it give the tenant? I didn't look at what the verbiage is going to be on the notice. I didn't look at that into detail. I see some of it on here. If the notice demands payment that came rent during the protected period as defined in section 1179.02, the notice shall comply with the following. The time period in which the tenant may pay the amount due and deliver possession of the property shall be no shorter than 15 days, including Saturdays, Sundays, and other judicial holidays. The notice shall set forth on the amount of rent deemed and the date each amount became due. The notice shall advise the tenant that the tenant cannot be evicted for failure to comply with the notice if the tenant delivers a signed declaration of COVID-19 related financial distress to the landlord on or before the date that the notice to pay rent or quit or the notice to perform or quit covenants expires by any of the methods specified in subdivision. The notice shall include the following text in at least 12-point font. From the state of California, if you are unable to pay the amount demanded on this notice and have decreased income or increased expenses due to COVID-19, your landlord may, it says your landlord will not be able to evict you for this missed payment if you sign and deliver the declaration form included with your notice to the landlord within 15 days, including Saturdays, Sundays, or other judicial holidays. But you still owe this money to your landlord. If you do not sign and deliver the declaration within this time period, you may lose the eviction protections available to you. You must return this form to be protected. You should keep a copy or a picture for your signed records. It still goes on and on and on. So I need to do a lot more reading before I can answer your question. But yes,
Okay,
we're gonna.
One
special-
second, I think the best thing would be then wait 15 days. So you don't give them sooner than 15 days, so they won't be alerted to go see the lawyer and quickly self-certify. So it's better to wait 15 or 16 days and then hit them with a 3-day notice and mention that we have not received any verbal or written communications that you were affected.
Well, thank you for your interpretation. I think we all paid attention and I like that strategy. And this is going on about the protected period where they could pay 25% of their rent. So the bill is going into detail in ways that I don't need it to go into detail because it's not answering the question you're asking of me. And I could sit here for 10 minutes and not find it. I thought I found it, but I have not found it yet. I got to keep going. Because this is all about October. Any extension, expansion, renewal, reenactment, or new adoption of the measure, however, to delineate that occurs between August of 2020 and June. No effect. So yeah, it's gonna have to have special verbiage on it. I'll tell you that right now. But there is nowhere for them to apply for the state's money because that ends today. So we wait to serve a 3-day notice for April. I'd wait until we can see the new verbiage. I know my team's working on it right now. Would she go to jail if she kept the money? Most likely, yes. It's misappropriation of government funds. And as far as I know, that's a federal offense. And you would have to notify them through the program that you never received the money and your tenant got it and they kept the money. That is what Dennis Block just said in his webinar. Wait until after April 11th to give the 3-day notice if the tenant did not recertify. I got you. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Erica said that that's what Dennis Block just said in his webinar. Wait until after April 11th to serve the 3-day notice if the tenant did not recertify. We got 2 attorneys here on a lot of things, but I'm not one. Does anybody have anything else for me?
Yeah, I did listen to Dennis Block and he says, serve the old 3-day notice, but wait for like a couple of weeks and mention you haven't received any communication. And basically that's it. It's an old 3-day notice without any.
The 3-day notice though, is it tells them how to apply for rent relief and that is not valid anymore.
No, the old 3-day notice meaning nothing about COVID or house is key.
Oh, you mean the BC 3-day notice?
Yes.
BC for COVID. So an old school 3-day notice that we haven't been able to use in quite some time.
Yes, exactly. And he said, just wait April 11 because it doesn't count the holidays and weekends also.
Correct. Correct. It never counts weekends and holidays, even in the summons and complaint. And thank you for that, David. I appreciate you. Does anybody else have any more questions for me? No? Okay, so we're all updated. There's been an extension for 90 days.
Oh, I have a question because I might have not heard it right.
My sisters would get on here. I was hoping.
So if the new bill passes, are we
Tomorrow.
legitimately able to do a 3-day notice?
Tomorrow.
Okay, good. Yeah, because we can't take it anymore.
I know. And the 3-day you already have in place, no money's been transferred since then. So that has enough teeth to move forward.
Okay, great. Yeah. Just for your information, we have a realtor that lives next door that we were talking to her just a few minutes ago about something else. And the same ugly situation is happening in Sonoma County to small mom and pops.
Would you please take just a couple of minutes without getting into a whole lot of detail and explain to us as a group what is happening to you personally right here in Sherman Oaks?
Okay, it started in August. Well, in June, we found almost $4,000 worth of tenant damage to the house. We fixed the damage and submitted a bill to her, and she gave us a COVID rent financial impact. And she hasn't paid the rent since and it wasn't signed. It's not signed and it's not the legal document. And she hasn't paid rent since August. She moved out of the house January 1st. There's no possessions in the house, and we still can't get our house back because of the COVID rent protections in LA City. She continues to damage the house, and now we just found out she's stealing rental property, and we still can't get her out.
They stole the toilet seat, the shower head, the refrigerator, and they still don't have enough teeth to get their house back.
And she's
What I mean about having them hold it hostage. She has a house. It's sitting there completely vacant. Okay. We have it on video. And this tenant goes back every 3 or 4 days, just enough to do their laundry. They're not living there. There's no refrigerator. The house is completely empty. She goes there to do her laundry every couple days and just be a thorn in the side of the landlord.
And the final thing is, we have a tenant next door, and she's been threatening the tenant next door and threw stuff over at the tenant, and we still can't do anything about it.
So this is what I mean when I say to you guys that we have owners where the tenants are holding their own investment property hostage against. That is what this woman is facing, and it's pathetic and it's disgusting. She doesn't even live there. Okay, just mesmerized. Patty, if the certification is done and the program paid 18 months total and the tenant still owes 3 months rent, including March, will we be able to evict for new balance if they still claim COVID? Yes. The program is only going to pay 18 months. So if they owe rent, talk to your legal counsel about starting an eviction for non-payment, because the funds have been exhausted, and that's what we need that to say in order to get the lockout done. Someone posted a house for rent near my Kern County homes. She was bombarded with questions, including how much, since she did not post the rent. Ooh. She replied, it depends on how many occupants. Isn't that illegal? Absolutely. Absolutely illegal. What is that? I'm going to wait. And let me tell you why it's illegal, just so we're sharing. Are you waiting to see the color of my skin before you tell me how much the rent is? It just opens her up to discrimination from every angle, every angle. It's a bad business practice. Don't copy them. Okay. It's a bad business practice. It's not only illegal, it's immoral, it's unethical, and it's making yourself subject to discriminatory acts tremendously. And for those of us that are having a vacant property or coming up on a vacant property and want to re-rent it, pay attention. If the tenant didn't live there during the COVID protected or the transitional period, they have no protections from COVID, so rent it. Pricing is through the roof right now, no joke. I almost threw up in my mouth when I found out that for my 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom little house in Apple Valley, California, with a 2-car garage, I could be asking for as much as $2,400 a month. I about fell off my chair. I anticipate sometime after the summer is over that we will start seeing major changes in the market and the way that the market is, because we can't keep holding on like this, you guys. It isn't going to happen. Our pockets aren't deep enough. We can't keep on the rate of inflation the way that it's going. Something's got to pop. So I anticipate we might make it through the summer, but I don't think we're going to make it much further than that. I plan to serve a 24-hour notice to a home where a disabled vet and his 2 sons live. We believe there is damage. Does the VA ever pay for repairs or upgrades to the bathroom? No, not necessarily, no. If you're involved with the VA, it's called Veterans Assistance Something Housing, and the acronym for it is VASH, V-A-S-H. And that's the Veterans Assistance Supplemental Housing Program. Oh, I got it. It came out of my brain. Veterans Assistance Supplemental Housing. The VASH program, just so you guys know, affects our veterans directly. You have to be a veteran in order to qualify for the VASH program. They usually pay a very large portion of the rent, sometimes all of it. And the ones that I've all seen, they've paid the full amount of the rent for the tenant. There was no tenant pays $12. Tenant paid everything. The VASH program, and this is where I need you guys to pay attention, and this is why I love the VASH program, is a spin-off of Section 8. Simply said, for the first 2 years, it'll be VASH, and then it turns into a Section 8 contract. Okay. While it's on the VASH program, I don't know what you call them. They're advisors, they're property managers, they're social workers, whatever the people are that run the program. They go check on the tenants several times a year. And if they need to clean up the yard or they need to clean up the house or things aren't in order, they tell them too, hey, you got to clean this up. So it's kind of like having a second set of eyes and another little boss telling them what to do. And I really like that. Number one. Number two, I always want to help a veteran. They're the ones that have risked their lives for us. You know, we might as well try. I like the VASH program. And you didn't hear me stutter there. Everybody that was on VASH when rents weren't getting paid, if you were on Section 8 or a housing program like VASH, you were funded by the federal government, you can get paid all the way through the pandemic. Most of the people on Section 8 and through the VASH programs were paid throughout the pandemic and didn't have to deal with what's going on. And my thing is, I always want to help a veteran. I saw a question from Val, hang on.
Yeah.
Can a landlord contact VASH versus the vet? Absolutely. You can contact VASH and say that you want to put your house up for rent through the VASH program, and they'll have their workers they have their own little rental page, kind of like Section 8 saying what's available. The VASH workers can all see that. You can try to get an existing tenant to sign up on the VASH program. Absolutely. Give them the information and tell them all about it. Veterans Assistance, no, Veterans Affairs Supplemental Housing, VASH. That's why I asked if I could call. Yep, call them. See if you can help the tenant. I also try to advertise with VASH when I have a vacancy come about, because I've been very pleased with the tenants that they're placing in those properties. I've had no issues. I had a disabled veteran in one of my properties for 6 years, and he eventually actually bought a house, is why he moved. So I see that program as being very good. I also like the fact that they kind of crack the whip and stay on them and check on the properties. But it had turned to Section 8, but by then 2 years of somebody telling him what he had to do, he got the hang of it, you know, no issues. And they kept my house nice. They did me good. VASH is a decent program. I haven't had one yet, and I know there's always a bad one out there, but I've only had 3 personally that have rented through me. Personally, I know when I was at the management company, I had 2 other clients where they specifically wanted to do the VASH program because they were also ex-military. So it's just another way to help our veterans, if you will. But it's a great program. I haven't had any issues with it. I plan to serve a 24-hour notice to a home where disabled vet and his 2 sons live. We believe that there's damage. Does VA cover ever? Can it? Yep. You can call them. Yep. Call the VASH program, see if they can help that tenant. A lot of times they'll help. And it's a good program. I mean, it runs off the coattails of Section 8, but it's veterans versus low income. That's what I wanted to say. So when you're dealing with regular Section 8, you're helping low income. When you're dealing with the VASH program, which is a spinoff of Section 8, you're helping veterans. And remember, folks, we cannot discriminate against source of income. So we can't advertise no Section 8 anymore. We can't advertise that kind of stuff. And if they apply, we have to treat them like everybody else. So they must meet our criteria and follow our qualifications. And everybody panics. What if Section 8's portion, they only have to pay $12? Then they only need a job that they make $36 a month in order to qualify to live there. Yes, you're correct. They also need a FICO score of, so don't get hung up on one loophole that's going to bite back at you. There's a whole bunch of things on your criteria, right? They have to meet all of those in order to qualify to live there. Don't shoot yourself in the foot because you're frustrated because you have to jump through hoops to allow these people to apply. You have to allow everyone to apply, okay? But you only have to approve someone that meets your criteria, as long as it's legal. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Allie. I'm all big about protecting our veterans. What if a potential tenant calls and asks if we accept Section 8? Can we say no? Don't you dare. It is discrimination against source of income. We'll sue the pants off of you. They ask you if you take Section 8, you say, of course we do. The only thing that we ask is the applicant must meet our criteria. Got it? Do you accept Section 8? Absolutely. Applicants must meet our criteria. That's your answer. Stick to it. Got it? Usually someone on Section 8 doesn't have a 700 FICO score. However, I have seen that before on someone that had Section 8 and they were older in years and they did have a good FICO score. So it is possible. It's just not likely. Paying attention? Anybody have anything else for me? I'm going to end today. I don't want to keep you. I just wanted to give you a heads up. We have something new that's governing us. It actually is going to help us get rid of those tenants that weren't so honest. Okay. And if this new Senate Bill 847 passes, all of us that have applications that were denied because of tenants' income, were overqualified, or they didn't comply, we may get paid after all. I like that one. All right, Victor. So additional extensions. Instead of April Fools, we got fooled. State needs more time to pay us. I get that. It is what it is. But now we're searching more towards Independence Day and getting our freedom back, okay? If you guys need anything, have any questions, want to hunt me down, you know how to find me. All right. Have a great day, you guys. We'll talk soon. I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.